Hi, this is Dr. Tim Green, and I'm here with Dr. John Cowan, who is a Senior Research Associate in the Division of Outreach, Engagement, and Regional Development at Northern Illinois University. Welcome, John.
Hi, Tim. Nice to be here.
And we're going to talk about social network analysis. That's a specialty of John's. But before we do that, I want to let John talk a little bit about his background. He's got an interesting background and how he arrived at social network analysis. So, John?
Tim, it's nice to be here with you today, and I appreciate the chance to talk about social network analysis. It's an interesting field and area of study for me. I started my career as a first grade school teacher, and spent about 3 or 4 years doing that, and then I moved up to fourth grade and taught fourth grade for a few years, and then I was at a faculty meeting where a principal announced that a truckload of computers was going to show up and wanted to know if anybody had any experience with computers. And I raised my hand and volunteered because the weekend before I had played Donkey Kong on an Apple IIe with an older brother of mine that lived in Denver, Colorado. And so that qualified me to be the school's first technology coordinator. And I think any of us that are in education that are at my age have similar stories like that, that there were no job descriptions for people like us back in those days. There were no minimal requirements because nobody knew what was going on. The computers just started showing up and somebody had to do something with them.
It's good to know
And
you're a Donkey Kong expert.
yeah, actually, leaping barrels is a great way to get started. I would consider using that in interviews if it still applied. I'm pretty good with the big hammer too.
Very nice.
In fact, it's one of the reasons I have a mustache today. But so about the time I started playing around with the computers, I realized that I had really powerful technology in my hands. But most importantly, I think I realized that I was working in a school in a fairly tough neighborhood. And what I realized was that almost every kind of kid was really attracted to the computer. It's almost like no matter what kind of learner they were, there was something there for them. If they were audio learners, they could listen to things. If they were tactile, they could move the mouse around. I remember just being blown away with kids that failed at everything else, being really masterful at things like logo and things like that. And so I began to look around for a way to further my education. And this was, I want to say this was 1990 or so. And I was in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I found out that there was a program starting up at the University of New Mexico that was going to be a hybrid technology program. And this was 1990. And we met once a week face to face, and then we spent time doing email tag. We had an online kind of a phone system on an old VMS system where the screen would break up and people could type and text back and forth. But the most important experience I received during that program was that we were a cohort and we met face to face part of the time and did the rest of the program online. And it was an incredible learning experience for me. And I made connections with people that I maintain to this day. And so, what I really became immersed in at that point was not just the technology, but this notion of building community and the power of bringing people together face to face and getting them to get to know each other, have food together, talk, work on projects together, and then move online. And so that became my stock and trade. And after I graduated from that program, I was invited back because about halfway through the program, the World Wide Web was invented, and we needed to figure out some way to figure out what the web was going to do. And myself and another student were really interested in figuring out how to make web pages show up online. And so we started playing with HTML. And so I was hired after I graduated to come back and teach the first internet courses for teachers to make web pages. And I stayed there and eventually for my day job, I moved to a big high school in downtown Albuquerque, and I was the network administrator and staff developer and everything else related to technology for a high school for about 7 years. And at the end of that time, I finished my doctorate and took a job at Sacramento State University working in a program called IMET, which was the Internet-Based Masters in Educational Technology. And that was another cohort program that met 20% of the time face to face and 80% online. Had a great experience there. And then in 2009, I was hired by Northern Illinois University College of Education to move a master's program online here. And it's just completed, I want to say its fifth year. And last year was ranked number 1 in the nation by U.S. News and World Report for online graduate education programs. And that ranking has a lot to do with the quality of relationship that people have because of that hybrid sense of the hybrid design, which allows a sense of connection and community.